Register, thank you for joining us here tonight. Thank you to the Allen County Democrats and the Allen County Republicans who have co-sponsored this event. Elections are critical for democracy. The cast of a ballot is a citizen's most sacred right and responsibility. It's critical we understand who we're voting for and how they stand on issues that matter to us. I'm happy to be here tonight to allow candidates running for an elected office an opportunity to express their viewpoints. Please note that only candidates who face an opponent in the August 6th primary election have been invited to attend. We hope to hold a similar event this fall before the November 5 general election. Tonight's forum will be organized as follows. We have 4 races to cover: Allen County Sheriff, Allen County Commission District Number 3, the Kansas 2nd Congressional District, and the Kansas 12th Senate District. We will proceed in that order, beginning with the Republican candidates for Allen County Sheriff, Brian Murphy and Anthony Mance. Each candidate will be allowed time for a brief opening statement, and then we'll proceed to questions. Each will be allowed equal time, 2 minutes, to answer. A yellow card will be shown indicating 30 seconds left. A red means time is up, and I'll prompt the candidate to end their remarks. After several questions, we'll move to an open floor. Those in the audience who have questions they would like to submit are invited to write them on a note card and raise your hand. I will screen questions for the candidates. So on and so forth for the remaining 3 races. I'll do my best to keep time. Thank you for JP for helping. Allowing 2 minutes for opening statements and 2 minutes for answers. As moderator, I reserve the right to select questions and discussion and ask for clarification. The register received feedback from many interested constituents before tonight's event. Thank you to those who submitted questions. I've done my best to focus on common areas of interest. Tonight's event is all about dialogue, about listening. We can't agree on everything, but we can agree it's imperative we maintain civil discourse. Please keep that in mind. And above all, vote. Of all the voices we hear tonight, yours matters most. Advance voting for this primary election began yesterday. Election day is Tuesday, August 6th. Thank you. Now, Brian and Anthony can come to the stage. We'll get started. And if you didn't grab note cards and pens, there's many, many, many back there. So feel free to go.
Thanks for coming. Many of you know who I am. My name is Brian Murphy. I'm the Allen County Sheriff. I will speak louder then. Thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it. My name is Brian Murphy. I'm the Allen County Sheriff. I've been here in this position for 12 years. And I appreciate everybody's support and the trust that they put in me over the last 12 years. I've been in law enforcement for 32 years. I started my law enforcement career in White County in 1992. Moved down here in 1994. I've been through several different positions with this agency. A very unique position to this. Position of sheriff, position to be times. But anyway, Anyway, I have been in many different parts of the job. I've been the undersheriff of the 2 different administrations. I've served as a jail administrator. I bring a very unique part and weight to this position as I've come up through the ranks through this department and other agencies. As far as I've worked in corrections, I've been moved to the crowd here in Allen County, went through the undersheriff's position again under Tom Williams and Ron Moore. So I think and I believe that I'm in a very unique position, and qualifications to this position. Thank you again for being here, taking time out of your day.
Thank you. Anthony, go ahead.
All right, my name is Anthony Mance. I am a 25-year law enforcement veteran. For those of you who don't know me, I began my career with the Iowa Police Department as a volunteer police reserve. Worked my way up through the ranks with that agency for achieving rank of lieutenant. After which, I went over to work for the Allen County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Williams hired me, and I actually worked for Sheriff Murphy. And so my time there, I'm really proud of the work that we did. And then with that agency, I proceeded to be a detective and then chief deputy before I left to go to work for the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. I worked as a special agent, responding to the field side of calls, which involves felony crimes, homicides, public corruption, white-collar crimes, those kinds of things. Coordinated those investigative responses. And last year, as a matter of fact, almost in about 2 weeks, it'll be a year today, I went to go work for the Allen Community College as the criminal justice coordinator. And when I left the KBI, I told the director, I said, I'm really optimistic about the work that we do, but I think it's time to make that impact with our younger generation, which I've been very, very fortunate to do. I still work part-time for KBI. I'm a special investigator, which is a non-sworn position, but I was responsible for assisting with background investigations. And then like I say, work full-time in college. We've done really great things where we're actually branching into continuing education and training rather than just traditional college credit courses. As I have decided to go into this venture, it was a difficult decision, like I say. Sheriff and I have been friends for years. I used to work for him. I worked on his previous campaigns. And so this is not something that I walked into lightly, but when I look, my red card is up, so I will say, we'll save the rest for later, folks. Thank you.
Thank you. The first question is, the office of the sheriff is an elected position. As such, the sheriff does not have a direct supervisor and is ultimately held accountable by the voters. Yet, unlike other elected positions, voters don't have much regular direct contact with the sheriff's department. There aren't weekly meetings, for example, like with the county commission. Generally, what are your thoughts about transparency and accountability when it comes to the position? And specifically, how do you work to make sure citizens are informed? How would you qualify your relationships with news outlets, elected officials, and citizens? We'll start with Andy.
All right, so I would argue that the Office of Sheriff should be in direct communication with the citizens, whether it's the sheriff himself or the deputies. As deputy sheriffs, they have that direct interaction with the community, and so I think there is that direct interaction. But I think when it comes to the accountability and transparency, I think the sheriff needs to lead by example and should initiate communication, basically focusing on, in crime prevention, we look at proactive versus reactive. And the same thing goes for community service. We need to be proactive in that community service rather than reactive. And so rather than waiting for people to ask us questions or waiting for them to feel comfortable to approach somebody, we should be out there initiating conversation. We should be soliciting information. And obviously, as a candidate, it's easy for me to sit up here and say I have all the answers, right? But truly, when we look at this, that's what law enforcement in its purest form is that direct interaction with the communities and the citizens, so that we know what's going on, so there isn't that barrier or that misconception that there's not that direct interaction.
Thank you. Again, Sheriff Murphy, generally, what are your thoughts about transparency and accountability, and how do you work to make sure citizens are informed?
Again, not to discredit anything or go down the path exactly right. I mean, what you said, Tim, is perfectly correct. We are elected. We have 13,000 roughly people that we answer to. Whenever I have a chance with my deputies or my corrections staff or my front office staff, the most important thing I always tell them is when we're out on patrol or when we're out doing anything, we need to stop and talk to the citizens. Without the citizens, without their input, we don't know what we need to change, address, or correct, or what's doing good. You know, it isn't always the negative. So as far as being informed by the community, I push that very hot and heavy with anybody that works under my direction. I've been through that. I, again, came up through the ranks, boots on the ground. I patrolled, I talked to the farmers, I talked to businessmen. But, and as far as the media goes, yes, we need to let them know what's going on. Is everything reportable? Sure. If you look at it that way, yeah. But there's certain decisions that are made and about everything that goes on from parking tickets, not parking tickets, but from any kind of investigation. And that's just where you go down that road for transparency. If there's a question asked, you answer it. But for the people in the community, if we don't have that trust, we can't stop and talk to those people, and they don't feel comfortable enough coming to us and letting us know what their concerns are, then we kind of get lost and get blind and not know where the community wants us to go. But again, you lead by example. I firmly believe in that, and they're going my red card.
Thank you.
Brian, I need you to move the microphone a little closer to your mouth. Like me, like this.
All right. Sounded like God for a second. All right, second question. We'll let Sheriff Murphy take a first crack at it this time. Hiring employees, managing them, and building a workplace culture is difficult. It's likely the most challenging job of any supervisor. Over the last couple of years, the Sheriff's Department has seen 2 deputies who have faced separate and unrelated criminal charges. Workplace culture is bigger than just one person. But when you think about your leadership, what type of culture do you hope to build? What do you look for in potential hires? How do you screen them? And once they're part of your team, what procedures are necessary to handle complaints against them to make sure they're serving the public in the best way? Sorry, that's a mouthful of a question.
That is. The question, in reference to the question, background checks are very thorough, very intricate. People are vetted, prior contacts with their employers, they're put through a psychological evaluation. So there are many areas in which that they are vetted to begin the position. Do we take that lightly? No, we do not. The question on hand that you bring up in reference to the 2 past deputies, those are not the only officers in this county that have been arrested. I don't take those any lighter than the ones that I arrested before. In fact, it's something that happens. Those background checks were conducted. The people that were hired were working for us before these men decided to commit felonies. I don't know that I have a crystal ball that I can put on my table and articulate and show that these people are going to violate the law. But it is important that they know about it, the community knows about it, just as we've done in the past. And when they commit those issues or those crimes, those felonies, there's procedures and protocols that we follow to go down. If it's something we can take care of in-house, we do. If not, we refer it out and contact the state agency and come in and do the investigation. And they control what happens.
Thank you. And then again, the question is about workplace culture. What do you look for in potential hires? How do you screen candidates once you're part of the team? What procedures are necessary to handle complaints?
All right, that's a lot. Potential hires. The short answer for potential hires is find people that have the right motivation. We talk a lot about, I stress a lot about training, and that's because that's where it begins. Is if you find the right person who has the right motivation, the right reason for doing it, you can equip them with the knowledge. As far as the background investigations, again, I know, I can't speak for what the Sheriff's Office practices currently are because I'm not employed there, but I do know that it is very important that you are thorough and you vet that process as I've discussed before. But additionally, when I look at overall, what kind of culture do we want a culture of leaders. We want people who are dedicated to service to the citizens of Allen County and are prepared to put the work in to provide that service. And if that means, putting the work in to learn and enhance their knowledge, then by all means, that's what we want to do. Is likewise, if we get somebody that has experience, that's fantastic. We can mold that and fit it so that it becomes another benefit to our organization. Ultimately, I'm trying to remember if that's all three, because it was a lot, but.
Last part was procedures necessary to handle complaints.
Oh, procedures. So we have to address the complaints, involve other agencies when necessary, but obviously we want to maintain privacy rights of those individuals who are having complaints against them, and we don't want to violate that, but we do need to maintain, as the chair said, that community trust.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll let you start with this question.
All right.
Last October, Allen County voters overwhelmingly rejected a proposed $9.95 million bond issue to renovate the Allen County Courthouse. The central concern was a lack of security. Since the election, there's been little mention about the need for additional security at the courthouse. Are the underlying issues still there? Is it an all or nothing deal? What's a viable plan look like for the future?
So I've actually had this conversation with multiple people while I've been campaigning, and it's difficult for me as a sheriff's candidate to speak a whole lot about what should or shouldn't be done at tax expense for expansions until we address the fact that the county commission had allotted funding for a courthouse deputy. And those two deputies, there were two deputies that were hired for that role and since moved on either out of the agency or onto other responsibilities. But until the sheriff's office fills that role, I don't think it's appropriate to ask for more funding to address security until we've adequately utilized the funding that we have.
Thank you. Sheriff, it's about the underlying security concerns and the bond issue that was defeated last October.
Correct. I mean, that was a large issue amongst the voters in this county, and I understand that. It was almost $10 million. That's a big ask for the community to get their taxes raised. As far as when it goes down to security within the courthouse, yes, I mean, we have a bailiff, we have somebody over there every day, sometimes it's part-time when the courts aren't in session, yes. But if you're talking from a security point from the seat of sheriff, which at this point in time I am, anytime that issue comes up, any security issue is always going to be paramount. Anybody that knows anything has to do with those kind of things understands that we're always working behind the power curve when it comes to security of facilities, infrastructure, things of that nature. We've always got to be aware. So yes, our courthouse was built in 1956. Does it need other security measures? Sure it does. And it doesn't always just mean boots on the ground, somebody there. They also have to have other measures in place to take care of those issues. So, was I surprised that it was defeated? No, I was not. But as I said when I was on the meetings with the judge, if you're asking me as the seated sheriff, is there security issues? Sure there is. Just no different than there's security issues here. There's security issues in our schools. These are all things we have to keep aware of and keep on the forefront of our mind and keep after it and just change and develop and see what we can do.
Thank you. Sheriff, this question will be first directed to you. You told the Register that one of the biggest issues crime-wise is domestic violence, and a lot of times with that you have an alcohol or drug issue. How does the Sheriff's Department work with survivors of domestic violence in the right way? And what are some examples of the wrong way? Who are your allies in our community when it comes to domestic violence? How do you effectively train officers to deal with such a complex issue?
Domestic violence is a very complex issue because you got to figure out what the underlying problem is. And there's so many vast aspects and factors that go into that you can't put your finger on one thing. With one issue with one family or one person is not the same as the other. During the interview, I indicated that there is a nexus to it, and that a lot of times we have a nexus to either alcohol abuse and or narcotics abuse. That's an underlying deal. So how do we do it? We partner, we have a great collaboration with Hope Unlimited, other CASA, things of that nature within the community. We meet on a regular basis. I have deputies that go to it and talk to them. So whenever we get involved and respond to an issue of domestic violence, we always make sure that we give them a packet that has a plethora of references and information and phone numbers to contact. And we encourage them to look for, get court orders or if they need them, or if it's warranted. And we show them where it is, and by all means, if they have questions, we always have it open, that they can come in and sit down and talk to us, and we'll help them walk through it anytime and whatever they need.
Thank you, Anthony. Again, the question is about domestic violence. How does the sheriff's department work with survivors in the right way, the wrong way? Who are your allies? How do you effectively train officers?
All right, so when we look at the response, obviously you have to understand that you can't just say, oh, this is just another domestic. Every situation is unique, and so many lives are impacted by that. And so whenever you work through those cases, it takes a empathetic approach, realizing that just because the statute of the law book says this is what you have to do doesn't mean it's always understandable to the family members that are impacted or the victims that are impacted. And so you've got to be able to think critically and problem solve. And so I'm going to jump to the end, and then I'll revisit the middle. As far as training, that's what you have to do is provide not just your deputies with training, but also your corrections officers, because number one, they're dealing with people that have been arrested, but also sometimes due to unique dynamics, you may have a victim in the jail, and so you need to make sure that everyone is aware and is prepared to recognize those symptoms. As far as partners, yes, Hope Unlimited, I've worked with them for years. They're a great resource. And then yes, the packets that we've handed out since I worked with the police department do provide those fantastic resources, but it's also about making sure that the victims and their families understand that this isn't just a one-night incident. It's going to be a journey for them. And I think Red's coming, so I'll end there.
I'll let you handle this question next.
All right.
Mental health is a huge and complex topic, both when it comes to the mental health of staff and those in the community. If you had a magic wand, what are some legislative or structural changes you see as necessary to ensure the health, safety, and well-being of your staff and our community?
Oh wow, magic wand's a big, it's a big picture here. So I'm gonna go big picture if we're saying magic wand. We have to educate our communities on the importance of mental health. Obviously, we have to involve our legislative bodies because they're the ones who make laws, but part of the reason that we run into hiccups is we haven't done, or the legislature hasn't done a good enough job of educating the public on what the challenges are. And so, for me, I think overall, we need to, without the magic wand, take that lead role, initiate those conversations, start forging that path, so that we can make the progress that we need to make to get the mental health conversation where it needs to be. Because whether you're talking about employees or whether you're talking about the public, mental health affects everyone. Well, I'm going to say it affects everyone, period. Either directly or indirectly through a family member. And we've got to make sure that we are investing in the mental wellness of our staff to prepare them for the challenges of this job. This job has unique challenges that they're going to experience things that most people, fortunately, will go a lifetime without experiencing. On the other hand, we've got to make sure that our communities are prepared to have those conversations and that our personnel are prepared, like you mentioned, with domestic violence. They are trained to recognize the symptoms so that offer those resources. Again, we're not mental health professionals, but we can make sure that we are trained and to be prepared to offer those resources or connect those resources. Thank you.
Chair. The question is about mental health. It's a very complex topic, but
Understood.
if you had a magic wand, what are some legislative or structural changes you see as necessary to ensure the health, safety, and well-being of your staff and our community?
The magic wand. I would agree that if I had a magic wand, I could change a lot of things. Legislatively, I don't know what is out there at the current time. I can tell you that we did cross an issue with this about a year ago, that we had some issues with mental health wellness when it comes to workman's comp, and it came down to whether or not this was recognized as PTSD and how that was acknowledged as a mental health issue, and where work comp was not recognizing that. So being part of the Sheriff's Association, we lobbied the legislator and we got that changed. So now that is a qualifier for work comp and the mental health rules. Now, as far as mental health goes, I think if I had a magic wand, and it has nothing to do with legislation, I'd love to be able to take away that stigma that sticks around with everybody in every community, with people in that community. I think now we are starting to combat and do better with that stigma when it comes down to mental health. The younger generation is teaching us guys that are long in the tooth and didn't believe in that stuff, and so just put it in a filing cabinet. Those old guys have figured out that's not always the right answer. So having been there, done that, we understand that we have to put it out there for these guys that see and deal with these horrible things that we would wish upon our enemies to see and deal with every day. We've got to find an outlet for these people to take care of, not only just at work, but also our family members and the community as a whole. We've got to be understanding and help them walk down that path and know that it's not a shame or a problem or embarrassing if you go and seek help.
Thank you. That was the final question I had planned. I'll open it up for a brief questions from the floor. So if you have a note card or something, raise it up. If not, we'll move on to the county commission. Going once, going twice. All right. Thanks to both of you guys. We'll take a brief recess and ask Nicholas Kinder and John Brocker to please take the stage. Thank you. All right, I'll go ahead and keep things moving. I want to make sure we've got several candidates who deserve equal time to speak. Just as a reminder, John Brocker and Nicholas Kinder are registered Republicans who are running for Allen County Commission, District Number 3. We'll begin with John Brocker, if that's okay with you. A brief 2-minute opening statement.
Okay, I'm John Brocker. I've run a business in this community for about a little over 45 years, been in business over 48 years. Been in the real estate business, we do appraisals, we do auctions, we do all that. But the big thing is I've been associated with the Realtor Association for multiple years. past president of the state association. I've been very active with the realtors on the political side of it for the last 25 years, with the state and the federal level, and still I'm very active with it. I sit on committees that meet with legislators and meet with the congressmen and senators, so I get to see the whole picture all the time. And for a short time, of 6 months as county commissioner, so I also understand local problems as well. The only reason I'm running, I'm trying to give back to the community. I'm trying to make it a better place so that we bring more people here and be able to have the community that my family has enjoyed for years. My 2 kids have been raised here. They both have great jobs from the schooling they got here. They went to the junior college here. They ended up finishing their careers at KU, and they both have done well in their lives. And that's what I want to see out of this community, that we can bring our children back here to hopefully have better jobs, that we can make this a good community.
Thank you, Mr. Rucker. Mr. Kendrick?
Hi, can everybody hear me? Awesome. Thank you guys for coming. Thanks for the, you guys hosted, and thank you, John, for turning out. So, I'm Nick Kinder. I'm actually a transplant to Iola. I'm one of the kids that he's referring to coming back to the community. One of the reasons that I'm running for county commissioner is whenever I was on the city council, the one thing that we kept running into is we get these ideas for things that we can move forward with, whether it was economic development, whether it was the airport, whether it was a number of other areas. We wanted to work on it. And the problem that we kept running into is it felt like there was a competition between the city council and the county. And one of the things that I want to do is I want to bring our various agencies together. We've got a lot of opportunity, a lot of people that are very passionate about this community. And I feel like under the direction of the county commissioner, we have the opportunity to bring those energies together and achieve a lot more in the next 4 years and the decades to come. A little bit about my background. I was raised in Garnett, Kansas, born in Kansas City. I attended Garnett junior high school, and then I came down here to Allen County. I spent 1 year slacking off and then finally got my associate's degree. I spent 3 years at Fort Hays State University getting my degree in political science. And then I came back here. My mentor, John Wells, actually recommended that I run for the city council, and I ran unopposed and was elected to that position. After 4 years of very eye-opening experience, it's one thing learning in a classroom, and a totally different thing when you get into it. They never once talk about the cost of light poles or how you handle storm damage. And then with the 4 years of experience on the city council, there was an opportunity to move to Ottawa, and that was why I didn't end up running for the city council. I really felt like there was a conflict of interest there. And after working things out with my family and my employer, I was able to stay here in town. If you don't know me, I'm the phone guy. I work with the Horizon store. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the discussion and the election to come. Thanks everybody for coming out.
You can just scoot a little bit forward or move a
Yeah.
little bit closer.
Better?
Yep.
If you have your mouth about this far away from the microphone, you're right.
About that far away?
Everyone look that's going to speak today, right in here. When you can hear yourself, you'll know they can hear you, and it won't ring back.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Brocker, we'll begin with you with the first question. The current county commission is planning to take a plan for a half-cent sales tax increase to Allen County voters. Currently, the county sales tax sits at 1.25%. The proposed tax increase would raise the county sales tax to 1.75 and generate $1.2 million in additional revenue that is designed to fund EMS services. The idea is to draw down property taxes by the same amount. What do you think of this plan?
I see that the way I've viewed all of the way we've handled things is that we seem to always want to lump everything on the property owner. out here on our taxation deal. EMS is a special deal because it handles everybody in the county, every person, whether you're a renter, whether you're an owner, whatever. And there should be some shared cost in that factor, that everybody is jointly involved with the EMS and having our ambulance service, because our ambulance service is very critical to this county. No matter who you are, we need to have that ambulance service. I said on St. Luke's Hospital, they have to have that ambulance service for transfers to get people to where they need to be. So it is very important that we've got to have this, and by sharing that a little bit is a better idea than just only a select group paying for that same service, where we also bring in income from other people that don't belong to the community in the sales tax issue of helping our NP.
And Mr. Kinder, thank you, Mr. Rocker. The question is about the half-cent sales tax increase that has been proposed by the county commission to use that to fund EMS services, and then by a similar amount, or equal amount, draw down property taxes. What do you think of that plan?
For one, I think it incentivizes property ownership in Allen County. We've all anybody that owns property, my landlord included, has seen the increase over the last couple of years. And so I think a trade-off between property tax and sales tax. One, it incentivizes property ownership, which is good for everybody. And two, I think that when we look at the EMS issue, especially when we talk about funding and projects that are available to it, one of the things that the county commission did is they actually trimmed back the budget this year with the county, with the EMS. And so there were a lot of things that were being asked for, upgrades in equipment and services offered that just didn't make the cut. And so I think when we're talking about life-saving entity and an obligation that the county has, I think it's essential that we trust the experts in those fields, our EMS director, our chief of fire, to tell us what they need and what they need to operate effectively. They live and work in these communities, so they're aware of the financial strains that we have. And I think in terms of lifting the load on the landowners in favor of a sales tax is a benefit to us. We have one of the lowest sales taxes around.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy, this question will first go to you. The city of Iola has overseen countywide EMS, or emergency medical services, since 2013, but the issue has at times been volatile. We all witnessed that in the first half of 2023, when communication between the city and the county over ambulance service appeared to break down. A deal with AMR was negotiated by the county, only to later be abandoned, and then finally last May, a new 5-year contract between the city of Iola and Allen County was approved. How should the county manage EMS in the future? And what can be learned by the recent history?
Well, I was on the council when we were debating that contract, actually. And without going into he said, she said, I will tell you that that's actually the reason that I'm running. The breakdown between the county and the city ended up causing that contract to cost more than it needed to. And because of that, there was an opportunity, or there was a chance there where it could have saved everybody money. And that was taxpayer money. That would have been an improved EMS service. And we lost people in that process, good people that have been on it. I'm proud of our EMS department. It's one of the things that Allen County has that's unique to us that other communities don't have, is we are still locally run. And I think that that's a benefit that we can't lose. Going forward, I think that as a county commissioner, it would be my goal to ensure that the EMS maintains local control as well as making sure that they have what they need, because when you've got a 911, you want to know that the people that are coming are invested in your community just the same as you are.
Thank you. Mr. Brockert, the question is about the future of EMS. How should the county manage it? And what can be learned by the recent history?
Well, what I've seen of it and what I know of it, because I was involved a little bit in it from the St. Louis side of the fence, is that he is actually right about the communication deal. We have had a problem with the county and the city communicating together. And going forward, that's got to get better. you're never gonna cure the problem with not working together in the whole process of what we're doing out here. And I was partly to help bring that together because I had some serious conversation with the county officials, and on the same token, to bring them back to the table to discuss this out, because it was going to cost us, if we'd have went the other direction, it was going to cost us a hospital. Because St. Luke's is only leasing a hospital, and if we did not have transfers for St. Luke's, they would have been gone. And so I stood my ground to make sure that we got the communications open right back up to keep it.
Thank you. Mr. Brock, I'll let you answer this question first. The current Board of Commissioners has placed a high priority on the development of the Allen County Airport and has invested significant resources there. If elected, would you continue this trend? And more broadly, how do you understand the Commission's role in economic development? What are your biggest priorities and the county's biggest areas of improvement? Who are your partners in this work?
The first question is that I understand what the county did. I don't know that I'm in full agreement with what the county did with the airport out there. I'll be upfront with you on that. We need, as a county, we need to be invested with all people in the county on the problem of making more space to come in here for housing and everything else. But that comes along with finding the way to make that happen for all communities, whether it's Iola, Humboldt, Chanute, Ellsmore, Moran, whatever. I sit on a county committee right now, the Southeast Kansas Regional Planning Commission, which they serve 12 counties. I serve as Allen County representative on that committee. I will break something here that nobody knows that came out of our last meeting. We just hired a person to be a housing expert for all counties, for the whole 12 counties, to help us figure out ways to bring money to each of the counties to help in expansion of bringing more housing into all the communities by more putting in the infrastructure of it and going after funds to allow the infrastructure, because most cities cannot afford to do that. Most counties can't afford to do that. So we are on the steps of trying to open that up for all counties.
Thank you. Mr. Kinder, again, the question is about the Allen County Airport and if it's a high priority for you to invest significant resources. And more broadly, how do you understand the Commission's role in economic development? What would be your biggest priorities, the biggest areas of improvement, and who would be your biggest, or the Commission's partners in this work?
So, I guess I'll answer that question in kind of reverse and end with the airport, because that's, honestly, I think the airport is a benefit to the community, but I'll start with what I think we need most for economic development. And part of that is we need to review the county's website. We have a great deal of community partners. We have Thrive, we have the Iowa newspaper. We have a lot of agencies and a lot of people that are very invested in the health and the prosperity of this community. But a lot of that information gets lost because it's not articulated to what's going on. It's not often printed in the paper. It's not often posted to the county's Facebook page. And so I would start with the renovation of our website, and then I would renovate our county's Facebook and social media. And then from there, I think what we need to do is we need to look at the resources that we have available and the energy that we have available. And I think we need to focus on developing that for Allen County. I think the idea of extensive working with other counties is great, but whenever we have something like Thrive and the other organizations that are here in county who are working towards economic development, I think the first thing the county needs to do is it needs to money at the table, because Humboldt's pitched in, Iowa's pitched in. We have the investment from the local community priorities, and now it's at the county level where we need the leadership. As far as the airport, I think that the county's expansion of the airport, while maybe a little premature, maybe putting the cart before the horse, I think the benefit to it is it's gonna pay off in the long run. By having a regional airport, people are gonna have access to getting flights to Wichita or Chicago. In Hayes, they have a regional airport, and you can fly to Denver, Colorado, or Chicago for as little as $250. And so, honestly, anybody that wanted to travel to the city, having that locally would be a huge benefit.
Thank you. Mr. Kinder, this question will go first to you. The 59 wind turbines on Prairie Queen Wind Farm in Allen County generate 199 megawatts of electricity. Kansas law exempts wind farms from property tax bills in their first 10 years of existence, and owners of EDP Renewables have agreed to pay Allen County $250,000 annually as a payment in lieu of taxes, or pilot agreement. The first $250,000 was distributed in December 2020 to county school districts and the Regional Rural Tech Center, but that practice has since stopped, with no established predetermined destination for those funds. In total, $2.5 million will be given to the county by EDP Renewables. What is the best way to allocate that money?
Continuing the fundament towards education. I think that continuing the development of young minds in schools alleviates the burden on taxpayers. We just paid for a very expensive school that might have not cost as much had we utilized those funds. I think incentivizing the growth of, what is the word for it? Essentially technical skills, plumbers, welders, and things like that. I think that's the future. It is somebody that grew up in the generation that said go to college and you'll get a great job. I don't think that's true. I think that we, as a nation in general, need to focus on those hard skills where people are getting out with actual, tangible skills.
Thank you. Mr. Brock, again, the question is about the pilot program, which will result in $2.5 million from EDP Renewables to the county. What's the best way to allocate that money?
I think, from my standpoint, the best way to allocate is go back and help the county on the initial things that we already are doing in the county. Biggest complaint I get out there when I'm out campaigning is our roads. Our county roads have got very poor maintenance problems. We need to address that because that comes down to ambulances getting there and everything else. We've been out there where I've seen ruts as deep as 1 foot to 2 foot deep in a county road, which means if somebody comes along there and doesn't know that, they're gonna get hurt. And when I was there for the 6 months, we discussed fixing the county roads and doing stuff. So we need to put some of that money back into building our infrastructure back up to the way it once was. And we've let it go so long, it's gonna cost a lot of money to bring it back to the way that it should be out there in the county. So some of this money is needed to put back in to our own people in the county and make the system better.
Thank you. Mr. Brocker, this question will first start with you. Since the pandemic, rising costs for materials and equipment is name of the game. And as county department heads look to attract and retain personnel with competitive pay, salary increases as well. We often hear that taxes must go down. For that to happen, the county will have to cut something somewhere. What are your thoughts on the recently approved budget? Are more cuts necessary? And if so, where?
I think that back to what you were just asking about in your question is our deal is we should be looking at all areas of what we're spending money on and look at the resources that are out there and see what we can do to be competitive, but to maybe back off of some things that we've been doing in the past that brings us back to a community the size that we are, and to address the problems that are directly out there. And the way we've got to do that is look totally at our budget and go through that budget thoroughly to where we can see what we have to do and what we need to do to bring everything back the way it should be.
Thank you. if in fact taxes go down, that means that the county budget will have to decrease. What would you cut? Would you cut and why?
So this may be an unpopular statement, but I think there's only so much blood that you can get out of a stone. And I think whenever we start talking about EMS and the 60,000 that got cut from the budget, and we start talking about where the county's going in terms of growth, when you run a business, and I'm not saying that government is business, but when you run a business, there are ways that you can cut the budget, there's also ways that you can generate income. And I feel like when you look at the budget side of things and you're constantly looking at it going, okay, we need to cut, we need to cut, we need to cut, you start cutting essential services, you start ending up with, like John said, not maintained roads, you start ending up with people moving out of the community and population decrease. I think what we need to look at is we need to look at avenues for increased revenue. And that doesn't necessarily have to be taxes. There are a ton of grants out there and a ton of opportunities, especially when it comes to our partners in the private industry who are looking for tax incentives, who are looking for opportunity. And I feel like by opening up our revenue streams and utilizing local partners, we can grow what we're offering without increasing the tax base. And ultimately, if we have to find the revenue, I feel like the opportunity is there.
Thank you. That was the last of my planned questions. We'll move to open floor. I see one. Anybody else while I'm out here? Anybody else? All right. Question is, what are your thoughts on increasing the number of commissioners, moving meetings to evenings, and foregoing a salary as a commissioner? I'll let, we'll start with first last. Okay, Mr. Kennedy, I'll let you begin. I'll let you
Thank
answer
you for
first.
asking the question, because yes, I think we do need to expand the number of commissioners. I think it's interesting that we have 3 people. The problem with 3 people is it only takes I motion and I second for it to pass. 1, that's not representative of Allen County, and 2, that's not democratic. As far as foregoing the pay, I only recently learned that it was a paid position, so that's not an issue.
Okay. And Mr. Brocker, the question is, what are your thoughts on increasing the number of commissioners, moving meetings to evenings, and foregoing a salary as a commissioner?
I've seen, watching different counties, a lot of them are going to 5. Because there's a reason for why they go to 5. The reason they go to 5 is if any 2 commissioners at Walmart talk to one another, that's an open meeting. And they violated the open meeting rule, even though they may not have been talking about what was going on. They honestly violated the open meeting, which they could be brought up on charges. So if there is 5, we talk, that is not an open meeting. So there is some things that are in favor of that. There's other counties that sit on just 3. The money, to me, is not the issue. That's not what I run. The money has nothing to do with that. The thing of it is that we need to make sure in anything we do that we get people in there that have the concerns of the people out there and not the concerns of the commissioners in there. There shouldn't be conflicts of interest, and I've seen some of that go on. In every committee I sit on, you sign a deal saying you cannot even talk about it if you've got a conflict of interest. And so that's where I stand on it.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions from the public, we'll end this part of the segment. We'll allow for a quick 3 to 5 minute break, and then I'll welcome candidates for the Kansas 2nd Congressional District. Please take your seats.
Don't get over